Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. I'm Kyle Marley. With me this week is Sean, a.k.a. the DFS Sniper from DFS Army, and we're going to break down this UFC 281 card for you guys today. Sean is a coworker over at DFS Army. He's a coach over there, and he's actually the former host of this podcast, so I'm excited to have him back on the show, talk about these fights this weekend. How you doing today, Sean, and are you going to the card tomorrow?
I am going to the card. I am excited for that. I'm back-to-back cards with Israel Adesanya in the main event. I went to International Fight Week. I did the bucket list thing, and I was fucking pissed. So I'm like, this is what people are leaving. It was wild. So hopefully I don't get screwed again by Israel Adesanya. Hopefully Pereira forces something. And yeah, I'm excited to be back. I'm happy to see you running the StreamYard and all that stuff, the shit I had to do. So I'm glad that's on you guys. And since I do work at Army, I'll make sure you guys are joining us over in the soccer room. Make sure come over there, play a little soccer. These fringe sports I've actually the last 2 months I've cut out a lot of. I still play NFL because I can't help myself because it's so big. And I'm probably a little bit negative on the year, honestly. But I cut out NBA, I cut out MLB. I'm these niche sports are where I have the edge, and that's where I'll make my money. So come join us in those rooms.
I agree, but I've always been a fan of the niche sports. I am always going to be into NFL, though. That's my first love, I guess.
Yeah.
But I gave up baseball, I gave up basketball, and I'm trying to just play the sports that I can focus on each week. But hopefully we'll make some money this weekend on UFC 281. I'm jealous that you're going to the card. I wish I could go back to another NYC card, hopefully soon. All right, but let's start this card off with the first fight of the night. We got Carlos Olberg minus 130 against Negumereanu plus 110. I usually like my curtain jerkers. I think this one is very in play with the fight does not go to decision line. But just picking a fighter to win, I don't feel good about. And if this fight goes to a decision, I don't feel good about either one of them really scoring well. But how do you see this fight going down? Who's your preferred play? And then I'll talk about how I see it going after you.
So I have Carlos Olberg here. I actually feel pretty good about this. I'm considering a bet on Olberg. I've never been high on Negumereanu. I did not look good in the weight cut either. Olberg is one of those guys. I think he's growing. He's got plenty of volume. I kind of think he's going to volume Negumereanu to death here. And I don't want to hear anything about how he gassed out in the first fight. You see how many strikes he landed in that first fight? He punched himself out because he ran into light heavyweight Clay Guida, apparently. Like, it's going to happen. It was UFC debut. I think he learned something from it. He paced himself better last fight, but he still throws tons of volume. Negumereanu is a guy who's going to bring the fight to him. I don't think there's going to be a lot of downtime in this fight. 205ers, you get natural power there. I think Negumereanu is going to get beat up here. I do like Carlos Olberg quite a bit. I like the price. The mid-range is actually kind of thin, which maybe it makes me like him a little more than I should because we'll talk about it later. But our main event kind of sucks for DFS, at least my opinion. It could be surprising in a couple ways, but for me, it's not an all-in main event. And the rest of this mid-range is it's there. And this is one of the fights I'm more interested in. So I like Carlos Olberg. He'll be up on my exposure list. I don't even hate him for cash games because I don't see Negumereanu finishing him, honestly. So Carlos Olberg up on my list.
I don't hate that, and that's who I picked as well. I just think he's levels above Negumereanu on the feet, and I feel like Negumereanu is mostly a striker, so I don't feel good about him going out there and trying to be a wrestler. He did okay in his last fight. He had 2 takedowns, 4 minutes of top control en route to his second round finish. And he could score well in this fight if he's able to get the fight to the ground. Even in a decision, he can score over 10x if he's able to get the fight to the ground in each round. But I don't know that he's able to do that. I don't trust him to even want to do that. And I think that Olberg's way more dangerous on the feet. So Olberg's definitely in for the knockout potential of minus 190. That's pretty solid. The fight as a whole, and Olberg is plus 150 inside the distance, so that's pretty good. And as you mentioned, the 146 strikes landed in 8 minutes. That's absurd. but I don't know that he can keep that up for 3 rounds. Negumereanu is a tough dude. I don't know that you want to put up that kind of volume just going for the knockout. I think it's in play. I also worry about a fight like that Charant one where he's just spending too much time not doing anything and not scoring points. So I'm kind of just torn on this fight. I would say it will not be in my single entry, most likely. It won't be a fight I'm really making a point to target with my hand builds, but it is a fight that I'm fine with like 20, 25% of either side if I'm doing 150 lineups over on the optimizer, because either side could score well. I just don't feel good about the fight as you do, but I am on the same side as you. Hopefully Olberg does get it done. And if I'm not too low on him, hopefully for your sake, he gets a good score.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think I'm around 30% on him right now.
30. I haven't built too many lineups yet. I've done a couple hand builds, but I haven't messed with the optimizer. I just pulled it up for the first time today. Usually at this point, I have my own projections in. I'm good to go, but it's been a busy day, so I'm trying to squeeze in everything. I still have NFL, so it's just been a little too hectic, and I'm going to have to get to it afterwards. But projections in there already. So last week I had this pulled up with a bunch of zeros. Yeah. All right, next one on the card we have minus 200 against Julio Arcee, plus 170. And for me, this is mostly going to be Montel Jackson or pass. I think that Arcee can keep this fight close in a 15-minute striking match. Maybe he can just hang in there on volume, land some good shots, win a split decision type of fight. I just don't see any real ceiling with him unless he gets a knockout, and I don't want to invest much in that knockout. Montel Jackson is the one who I think is more likely to get the knockout, and he's also the better wrestler in this matchup. He can rack up 4+ takedowns. He's the one who scored over 100 points in 4 of his 6 UFC wins when Arcee has never scored 100 points. So I'm more so looking to target ceilings on this card, and Jackson will be my preferred play. How do you see this one going down, Sean?
Pretty much the same way. No need to kind of repeat everything you just said. I'm on Jackson or pass. I'm much heavier on people a few $100 above Montel Jackson, so I'm not slamming in a ton, but he's definitely the preferred play. No problem with him in any format. I don't trust much of Julio Arcee. Not for me. Other dogs I like.
Yeah, agreed. I might end up Xing Arcee out of my player pool. Jackson's probably somebody I want to go overweight on, but as you mentioned, there's just so many people in that top range this week that I want a lot of exposure to, so I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. But ideally, I get 30% or more of Jackson. I think that's about where I have him projected on the ownership. So hopefully I can make overweight. And it wouldn't shock me to see him outscore the people priced above him. It's just I could see him win a decision, a striking-based decision where he only scores 70 points, and that would kill us. And I think that the other people priced around him have a more of a locked-in ceiling in their wins, I would say. But all right, on this next one, this is my least favorite fight of the night for DraftKings. We have Seungwoo Choi minus 170 against Mike Trizano plus 150. For me, it's close to a coin flip. I do think Choi should be the slight favorite, but it's a little bit too wide for me. But at 8.8K, Choi's probably going to be priced out of my lineups. And Trizano's not a guy that I see having much of a ceiling either. So even as an underdog that I'm picking to win, I don't have much interest in him. Might be a full fade fight for me. How do you see this one going down, Sean?
I'm a little more confident in Choi than you are. And really what makes me interested in Choi in DFS is that I don't think he's going to be heavily owned. Like I think I can play 20% Seungwoo Choi and be double the field maybe, or have a decent amount of leverage there. And he's got upside. He's one of those guys before his last fight I thought a little bit higher of than I do now. So I'm wondering, was that a bad performance? Was that, how's he going to look this time? I think he's got big power. I don't think Trizano's going to take him down. It's one of those, I'm bumping up my Choi exposure because I think he'll be less owned. I just is a spot for leverage. Like I'm not going to be, it's one of those, for those who don't remember what I typically do, I'm very much ownership based and try and take stands places. I think Dustin Poirier, here's my example. We'll talk about Poirier Chandler later. I'm going to be under on Dustin Poirier, who I think is going to be very chalky. And the natural pivot there, I'm not going to be no Poirier, but I'm going to have less in the field. And let me bump up my Seungwoo Choi percentage so I can try and win this thing solo versus chopping up with the other Chandler lineup. So I like Choi a little more. I am very under on Mike Trizano as well. I think he's among my lowest ownerships on percentage on the card, right there with Arcee, Riddell, and McCann, who we'll talk about later. But he's right at the bottom.
I don't hate Choi as an ownership play. I do think that makes sense for that reason, because we do have him as the lowest owned favorite, over 8.2K. And we had 14% here. I think I had maybe 11 or so in mine. So I think that's probably on the higher end of it. So I don't hate 20% on him, because we just saw Trizano get knocked out in his last fight. Choi does have power. He can go out there, get a first-round knockout, and break the slate at 12% ownership. So I don't hate that. I just think that the most likely path to victory for him probably scores in the 70s, and that's not going to cut it. So that's why I would rather just target these other favorites that I think have a more likely ceiling. And Trizano, if I had to use this fight, he would be my play, just because he's an underdog I'm picking to win. There's only a couple that I'm picking to win, but I like him more for cash games because I have this fight going all 3 rounds. I'd rather target guys priced around him who I think can score 100 points in a win. So might just fade this fight as a whole and hope that it does go to a decision. And that way I probably don't really care who wins, to be honest with you. All right, next one on the card, we have Karolina Kowalkiewicz, KK. I guess this is flip now. It's basically pick 'em, -105, then Silvana Gomez Juarez, -115. This is our mid-range priced fight of the week. KK's 8.2, Juarez is 8K. I think Juarez has the power edge. She's more likely to get a knockout in this fight, but KK's got the ground edge, and she's more likely to get a submission. If it goes to a decision, do we even care who wins? How do you see this one going down, Sean?
Yeah, we say KK has the ground edge. I mean, she got an armbar in her last fight, I think it was, but her whole career she's been a striker. That's typically who she is. I don't know. She beat Felice Herrig last time out. Before that, she'd lost 5 straight fights. Like it's just massive red flags to me. Gomez Juarez is putting people out in this division, which is weird. Has had trouble with ground opponents. Do I really think that Karolina Kowalkiewicz is going to be able to go get? And I've seen a bunch of people say, yeah, she's going to take her down, get a submission. Like I don't trust that. I'm more likely I'm going to be, I have to use some of this mid-range fight. It just fits so well in lineups. And again, I don't think many people are going to be on Gomez Juarez. I like bumping this up here because Kowalkiewicz has some of the name value. I think Gomez Juarez's power is there. We've seen Kowalkiewicz, and you don't say this often in this division. She's been deaded before. I've seen her knocked unconscious violently in this weight class. And Gomez Juarez can do that to people. I think Gomez Juarez is going to knock her out, is my prediction for the fight. And not that I'm going all in the fight by any means, but I'm going to be over on Gomez Juarez and under on Kowalkiewicz. And I'm going to be spreading the ground a little bit. I don't trust KK to do it. I don't. When I visualize the fight, I don't see her going to the ground. She should. She absolutely should. I just don't think she will.
Yeah, I don't trust her to go out there and get takedowns, but I think that's her path to 100-plus points would be a submission. But I actually think she's the better striker of the two if this is a 15-minute striking match. Juarez has never beat anybody good. And I think the only advantage she really has in this is that she is the more powerful fighter. KK's taking more damage. She's looking like she's fallen off as of lately. But Juarez is 37 years old also. And we've just never seen her fight the top of the top division. So we haven't seen a big fall off from her. I just think that the fade on KK has brought this line to even where I slightly do favor her. I just don't trust her. So I'll tell you that I'm not betting KK, even though I do see a little bit of value in her line. I don't love this fight because I think it goes the distance, and I don't see either one of them really scoring much more than 10x if that's the case. And I would actually bet on them not hitting 10x if it does go all 15 minutes. So for me, it's just playing it for the potential finishes. It is -125 to go the distance, which is pretty close. And I think that is going to make it an MME play for me, where I'm cool having either one of them in the optimizer if it gives me 10, 20%. But I just don't see me clicking on this fight much with my hand builds because I'm only going to make 10 to 20 hand builds this week. So I would rather target other fights I feel better about and fights that can score better in a decision. But I'm going to pick KK to get it done in this one. Just no real confidence. I don't think either one of them are very good at this point, to be honest with you. Next one on the card, though, is close to an all-in fight for me. We have Ottman Azatar minus 145 against Matt Frivola plus 125. DraftKings, Frivola is the favorite at 8.5K. Ottman Azatar is 7.7K, and he's got a plus 110 inside the distance odds. It's pretty good for an underdog. How do you see this fight going down, Sean?
I'm on the opposite side of the line movement, and I'm on Frivola here. I know he's a Long Island guy like me, so here's my thing about Ottman Azatar, and I see why the line is moved. Is when Ottman touches chins, people go to sleep. That's just how it's been. But dude, you can get him out of a first round. I think he's going to slow down. And Frivola, I think, can get takedowns. I think he's got just as much, not as much. He's got a lot of power in his hands as well. There's plenty of paths here for Frivola. And the takedowns as well. If he's smart, Frivola goes, takes him down, and I think can actually smash Ottman easily. The problem is Frivola likes to brawl. He likes to brawl, and if he goes, and he says he's going to brawl on Twitter if you follow him, if he does that, man, this is going to get real sketchy real quick for Azatar. I see Ottman slow down, and what's even pulling for me further off of Ottman is how popular he's getting. And it's just another game theory type of approach. I'm going to be under on Ottman and over on Frivola. It was already my pick anyway, so it's not that hard of a stand to take. But especially with the odds value, it's easier for me to ignore the odds value because there are some other dogs I'm picking straight up. If I didn't have, like last week, we didn't have any dogs to play, then you take the odds value to move on. I have other places I can go here. I'm not telling you to fade Ottman because he can get the 60-second bonus, because if Frivola goes full stupid on us and brawls with Azatar, he probably will get knocked out. I'm trusting Frivola and Ray Longo and those guys. Just grapple him. For the love of God, just take him down. And I think he's got a clean path to victory. But what's going to happen? It's one of those, we have to rely on these fighters. So Frivola's my pick. I can't, if you're going to play either side in cash games, you play Azatar because he's going to be popular at the odds value. It makes me queasy playing a guy in cash who can get 2 points. But if you're going to play one of them, you go with the odds value.
Yeah, I would say that this is a GPP only type of fight, but the odds value definitely puts Azatar in play. I actually think he is a really good cash game play for that line value. But I agree. I agree with everything you said. I am going to pick Frivola in this one because I think he's the more likely minute winner. If his chin can hold up, I like him to win this fight. The issue is that he's got a questionable chin, and Azatar tries to take heads just clean off. So it would not shock me to see a first-round knockout from Azatar and have him score 110 points and break the slate. So I do not want to be burned on him. I will be around field weight, but since it's close to an all-in fight, I'll probably have close to 50% Frivola, and that should put me over twice the field on him because that negative line value should make him lower owned. This is a good fight to target, so I think he'll be higher owned than most other fights with that similar line value would be. But I love this fight. I think it will be chaos. Either one of them could get knocked out, but Frivola can score 100+ points in a decision, I think. So I would rather target him at lower ownership. I agree with everything that you said. Hopefully he gets it done because 45% Azatar scoring 100+ points is going to make things pretty interesting on the other side.
It's going to kill a lot of stuff.
All right, next one on the card. We have another fight I like a decent amount. We got Andre Petrovski minus 200 against Wellington Turman plus 170. I saw in Discord right before the show, you posted that you are picking 3 underdogs, 7 or maybe under 7.4K. And I was wondering if maybe this was one of them. How do you see this fight playing out?
This is one of them. Look, Andre Petrovski on the feet looks fucking god awful. He looks bad, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He does not look good on the feet. Turman, to me, looks way better on the feet. I think can hurt Andre Petrovski. Can Andre Petrovski get takedowns? Maybe. And the maybe is what's keeping me like I'm not confident he's going to go in and get these takedowns and toss Wellington Turman around. And Wellington Turman's a big, strong dude. I think taking him down is going to be a problem. I think even if Petrovski does get a takedown, I think Turman will make him work for it. And I've seen Petrovski gas out before. I think that's kind of how I see this fight going. And there's multiple paths here. I think Turman will win the exchanges on the feet. If he can stop the takedowns, great. And I think he can actually finish Petrovski that way. Or I think he'll make Petrovski work, tire him out, and take over down the stretch to get a finish, racking up some volume. I don't trust Petrovski enough to get the takedown early, easy, or get a finish. And on the feet, he's just so bad. You just stop takedowns, and I think Turman's there. Turman at 7K feels like a gift. It is probably my favorite cash game punt on the card. And yes, I'm including Carlos Esparza. We'll get to that later. I'm probably, because everybody wants to pay up, and I think you probably should double pay up for Blanchfield, Weili. You need to dumpster dive somewhere. And for me, I am putting in Wellington Turman. So that is one of the three guys I kind of tease in Discord.
I agree. I'm picking Turman as well for all the reasons that you said. Petrovski's just not a good striker. He is a good wrestler. He's a good grappler. I would say he has the wrestling edge in this fight, especially in the first round. But if he does wrestle in the first round, he's probably going to slow down as the fight moves along. And I understand he has 2 third-round finishes in the UFC. But that was against 2 awful UFC guys. They're not even UFC guys. They were just in UFC fights. And Wellington Turman would have more success against those guys earlier in the fight, in my opinion. So I think after the first round, the wrestling and grappling just might shift over to Turman's favor. I think Turman's the better striker throughout the fight, could get a knockout at any point. So I agree. The line is too wide on this one. I like Turman to get the job done. I think he gets a finish in the second or the third round. My only issue with Turman is that he has never scored well before. I think 82 is his highest win so far. But if he is going to have a gassed out Petrovski in rounds 2 and possibly 3, I think he could do a lot of work in those rounds and possibly on the ground, which will score even more. So I agree being overweight on the Turman side. But Petrovski is a favorite that I'm picking to lose, but I'm okay getting some investment into, because if he goes out there and wins, he could finish, score 100-plus points, and he could also score 100-plus if his gas tank is able to hold up and he's able to have the wrestling edge throughout the fight. So I'll get a little bit of exposure to Petrovski, but I'll be underweight to the field on him, over on Turman. So hopefully we're right on that one. I agree with you. All right, next one on the card. We got the biggest favorite on the card, Aaron Blanchfield, minus 390 against Molly McCann, plus 320. This is basically striker versus grappler in my eyes. I think it has to be a grappler for Aaron Blanchfield to look like a minus 400 favorite. Like, she can hang on the feet, but I favor Molly McCann on the feet. So I don't really love that minus 400 line, but I do think Blanchfield can dominate this fight if she's able to get it to the ground. How do you see it playing out?
Just like that, Blanchfield needs to get this fight to the ground, pound her out of there. I mean, she should get a finish here. I like Blanchfield quite a bit. I do think she is future title challenger. She's young. She's got the grappling upside. Her striking is coming along. You know, it's coming along faster than Petrovski's striking. Props to Molly McCann, who's found herself, you know, a couple highlight reel finishes against less competition. I think everybody knows Blanchfield is a rising star, and McCann taking her shot. Good on her. I think Blanchfield takes her down and squashes it. But if Blanchfield has a bad night or decides to stand on the feet with her, there are paths for her not to score. I think Blanchfield's a better cash play than a GPP play, even though I'm expecting her to grapple. The problem is she's the most expensive. She's going to be chalky. I just plug her into cash games. I'm going to have some of her in GPPs, but I'm going to have even more Weili Zhang.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with all that. I think Blanchfield's a solid cash game play if you can get her in your lineup. It's a good place to start. Just because of that edge on the ground. If she can get the fight to the ground, she can really dominate there, whether it's with ground and pound or a submission. She can rack up multiple takedowns throughout the fight. She can keep 10 minutes plus of control time here. So I'm definitely fine with her if we can afford her. I do have her as one of the highest owned fighters on the card, though, so I'm not against getting away from her in GPPs if we need to. And if I can't afford 9.5K, I'm really fine with most of that range below her. So I don't think she's a must-have in GPPs, as you mentioned. And then Molly McCann, I just see going unowned. I have her as the lowest owned fighter on the card. When she wins, she scores well. If she wins this fight, I think it'd more likely be a TKO, or she's just stuffing takedowns throughout the fight and racks up volume, either than 10x in a win. But I think she could maybe get 90 plus points if she happened to get a TKO. We've seen some crazy things happen lately that I have not been on. So on this one, I'm cool with 5% McCann, just in case, because I think I'll have enough Blanchfield exposure where that'll be a good hedge, because it'd probably ruin my night if Blanchfield does lose this fight. So I pretty much agree with everything you said.
I have more McCann than that. I have 9%. I have 9% McCann right now.
I was thinking 5 to 10% in my head, but I think it'd be more 10% for 150 lineups, 5% with my 20 lineups. But we'll see.
These are the fighters I have less than Molly McCann. I have less Petrovski. I have less.
Oh shit!
Gutierrez is close. I have less Koval. I have less Riddell. I have less Trizano. I have less Arcee. I have less Esparza.
Wow. Okay. We'll have to talk about that Riddell one. I think that's the only one that really surprised me out of that. But I don't.
That's a stand I'm making this card. We'll get there. It's a stand I'm taking.
All right, next one on the card, we have Dominic Reyes minus 210 against Ryan Spann plus 190. We haven't seen Reyes in a while, and he's lost his last 3 fights, so we don't really know what to expect from him. We don't know if ring rust is going to hit him. We don't even know how motivated this guy is, so that's really my worries about him. But just on the tape, I think he's a much better striker, way more dangerous on the feet. And if this fight stays on the feet, I just think it's a matter of time before he gets a knockout, unless he's just playing with his food too much, going out there making it a sparring match type deal. I just think he's too good on the feet to not knock out Spann, basically. However, I think Spann is in play just for the facts that we don't know what to expect from Reyes. And if this fight can go to the ground, then Spann is live for a submission here. So I think this is a good GPP fight that probably gets a little bit overlooked on both sides. I'm picking Reyes to get it done, but how do you see it going?
Same thing. I'm fine playing some of both of these guys in GPPs. I think Reyes wins. I think he's better everywhere. But how motivated is he? Spann's got big power. I'm honestly probably going to be a little bit of field weight on both these guys, maybe a touch over on Spann because it's one of the dogs I think who can break the slate. And those are always guys, I tend to scroll up and down on those a little bit more if I think a guy can break a slate. And sure, could he? They're 205ers with big power. And Spann, a weird ability to catch guillotines, which would I don't know. Dom Reyes is the kind of all kinds of bad luck in this guy's career. He's the one who ate the Yuri Prohaska spinning back elbow. I don't know. You can tell me somehow Dominic Reyes slips or shoots a takedown and gets caught in a guillotine. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that seems about right. That's the kind of thing Dom Reyes would do. So I'm gonna have some Ryan Spann, but play both sides.
Yeah, I'd say play both sides is probably the way to go. I don't feel good about Spann winning the fight at all. I just feel that he does score well if he's able to get the win. So that's why he's playable for me, like a 10% owned type of play. And Reyes, for me, is more of a pivot away from Blanchfield and Wiley Zhang, because I have them both projected 40% or more by the field, which is going to take away from Reyes' ownership. And if Reyes gets a first-round knockout, he can outscore both of them for less money at lower ownership. So I do think he's a good pivot play if you're not using those other two. And I would worry about him winning a striking match. That would be my only worry, is if this is a 15-minute striking match, he goes out there and scores 50 points. I just don't think that Spann is good enough to hang for that long. So give me Reyes by TKO. And I think it's trying to kick me off my internet when I'm pulling up all these props, so I can't look at those anymore. But I think he's around even money to get that TKO, so I don't mind that. All right. Next one on the card is one I'm ready to hear about. We got Renato Moicano minus 120 against Brad Riddell plus 110. This is one of my favorite fights on the card, not only for watching, but I will be heavy on this one on DFS. But for me, on both sides. But you said you have very little Riddell, so I'm interested in hearing about that. How do you see this fight going down?
I like Renato Moicano a lot in this fight. Look, I think Riddell's striking is good. Renato Moicano is a really good kickboxer and fighter as well. I think they're really even on the feet. I think the part that, at least for me, when I watch things, I'm watching, the people are sleeping on, Moicano's a good grappler. He's got takedowns. He's got skills down there. And what's interesting is people go to so the first thing I always do, I look at the numbers and I go watch them fight. The numbers would tell you that Brad Riddell has got really good takedown defense. I started watching some of these. He's defending like the Malarkey double. He's really good at defending double leg takedowns. And that kind of shots from outside. That's not what Moicano does. Moicano works a lot of body locks, trips, and that type of stuff in this in-close grappling. Remember last time Brad Riddell was submitted by Jalen Turner last time out. And that was at 276. I was there for that. That was probably the most exciting part of the night, both because the bet I cashed and just it was an insane finish so quickly. The place popped off. I don't know if it'll be that quick here, but I think there's clearly some submission defense holes and grappling holes in Riddell's game. And I think Moicano, everyone's thinking it's going to be a stand-up fight and it's close. And, Riddell's shown toughness. Moicano's been put down before, and that's kind of how you see it playing out. And again, if Moicano doesn't look for these takedowns, doesn't close distance, it could play out that way. My point is that could happen in that type of fight, and I think Moicano could still win based on, I think they're so close in the feet, who's ever having just a better night. Like it's I don't think there's a big skill disparity. But Moicano, if he looks for takedowns, I think he can have a lot of success, top control. I think he wins around on the feet. I think he wins around grappling. I have Renato Moicano via decision, and it's one of those, I don't think Riddell, because the reason I have a little Riddell is that I don't think he's going to finish Moicano. I don't think that finish happens. I want to play Azatar. I want to play more Pereira. I want to play, the guys we haven't talked about yet in Turman. Like, there's always so many underdogs I can place here, and I'd rather play Renato Moicano or those other guys. So I'm on Moicano. Moicano, not that my cash lineup will change. He was my last guy in cash. And because I built my lineup I liked, and it was Moicano, Koval, Gomez, Juarez. I'm like, well, shit, I know who I have to click here. So I like Moicano a little bit, and it's not that Riddell isn't live. It's that how I play. I got to take a couple stands here, and Trizano and Riddell is one of them. Riddell and Trizano, I'm pretty far under on.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I just do like Riddell quite a bit because he is a powerful striker, and Moicano has a questionable chin. He's also coming off a terrible beating against RDA, so who knows what he's going to look like coming back from that one.
Worry me a little bit. It's a little bit of a worry.
Yeah, and I mean, just the chin in general against a striker as good and as powerful as Riddell, I think they could to 100-plus points to a Riddell score here. So I just love the ceilings from both sides. I think that the moment winners on the feet, it would be Riddell with the knockout, and on the ground, it's Moicano with the submission. But if either one of them is able to dominate minutes, it's going to be Moicano on the ground. He's a much better grappler. He can get the fight to the ground, and he can just have his way once it's there over Riddell. So I agree. I am picking Moicano to win. Since I'm picking him to win, he's probably the guy I want more exposure to, but I'm completely fine going down $400 to Riddell if that's going to help me get up somewhere else that I really like. So this is just a fight that I want to be heavy on as a whole. I like this fight more than the KK fight, more than the Olberg fight. So this is the mid-range fight that I'm going to be targeting and just throwing money into the pot, hoping I can hit the right combination. But yeah, picking Moicano to win because of his grappling edge. I just really worry about that chin, and Riddell is not a guy that you want to trust a bad chin against. So I think Moicano needs to get this fight to the ground, even though he's a really good striker and could hang if we knew that there wasn't going to be a knockout. So it's kind of knockout or bust on the Riddell side, but it wouldn't shock me to see him score 10x in a decision. I just don't think that 10x is going to be on the optimal lineup. So don't hate your stance there. I would just be a little bit too nervous about not only next to no Riddell, but I'd be very nervous about Moicano and cash because he has a 0-point floor. So when I haven't really spent much time on a cash game lineup, I did one right before we came on, half an hour before we came on, and that was not where I was going with my lineup. So I'd be nervous about that one personally, but it could definitely work out for you.
He was the last guy in. He was spot number 6.
We'll talk once we get later. I'll end up changing your mind. We'll see.
Maybe.
Good play overall. If it works out for you, you probably end up taking a lot of money home because I don't think Moicano will be super owned on the card. They'll both probably be right around 20, 25% owned. So if you're right on your stand, it could really help. That would make me nervous personally. All right, next one on the card. We have Dan Hooker minus 140 against Claudio Puelles plus 130. And this one is really submission or bust in my eyes for Puelles. I just don't see how he wins this fight unless he gets a submission, but he is very live to get that submission. How do you see this fight playing out?
I think Hooker wins pretty much everywhere. I agree Puelles needs a submission. I don't think he gets the fight to the ground. I like Dan Hooker quite a bit. I think he's going to want to, not that he'll be in cruise control, but the beatings he's taken, kind of damage he's taken, I think he'll be a little safe. I have Dan Hooker winning via decision. Not a fight I'm super interested in on DK. Dan Hooker got 78%.
I do like the fight. Okay. I like the fight more than you, but if you're right that Dan Hooker wins a decision, I think that you would be right in mostly fading the fight because he probably doesn't score. Well, he might not even score over 10x, but he probably doesn't score as much as the winner's priced around him if that's the case. So I think he needs the finish, but I could see him getting the finish on the feet or with ground and pound on the ground with homie going for knee bars or something like that. It would not shock me to see him.
You saw that clip on Twitter. I saw that clip floating around Twitter of Dan Hooker beating people.
That's definitely possible here because that's really the only path I see. Like if he doesn't grab a knee or somehow get his back for a rear naked choke or a guillotine, I just think that Hooker should be able to win or kind of dominate the minutes in this fight. He's a much better striker, way more dangerous. He's got submissions himself, but you don't really want to play on the ground with Claudio Puelles, so he probably wants to keep it on the feet, and he's only landing that ground and pound if it's like a defense mechanism. But I'm cool with either side of this fight. If Puelles wins, he probably scores well because it's a submission. The earlier that submission comes, the better for him. But for me, it's probably a fight I would want in close to half my lineups. And in my head, I would see like 30% Hooker, 20% Puelles, something like that. But I haven't built my lineups yet, so I'm not exactly sure if that will work out because there are a lot of favorites I like on this card. But give me Hooker to get the win there. I have him winning by TKO. All right, next one on the card, we got Chris Gutierrez minus 220 against Frankie Edgar plus 200. And this is where I was thinking that I would go in cash games. Frankie Edgar at 7,100. I do worry that he's 41 years old, coming off of multiple knockouts. So that's really my worry. Is just can his chin hold up at 41 years? But at the same time, Gutierrez is not really a guy that's checking chins. He's mostly famous for his leg kicks, and I feel like Frankie's too tough to go down to leg kicks. If there's one big edge in this fight for Frankie Edgar, it's his wrestling. And if he can make this fight 15 minutes, I think he has a good floor for cash games. And then the fan in me is picking him to win because it's his retirement fight. I think he does have an edge in the wrestling. So I'm picking him to get the win here. I like him in all formats, but mostly for cash. Is this another guy you were thinking for your cash lineup?
It is, and it's mostly the same thing. It's wrestling should be there. The toughness thing, I would have thought Cub Swanson was too tough for leg kicks too, but leg kicks, I mean, the toughness thing to some extent, but in some ways it can turn you off. You can't step on your leg physically. Nothing to do with how tough you are. You just go down. But I think Edgar won't mess around. He's going to close the distance, and it's a matter of does he get knocked out closing the distance. That's really what this fight is. I'm going to take Frankie Edgar, same type of thing. I think, he's finally fighting in the garden. I think it really is that simple. Does Edgar stay conscious? I'm going to say yes. If he gets caught, I'm going to go, yeah, well, Frankie Edgar's 41 years old. So set yourself up safe on both sides. My problem with him in cash games is, like you said, if he gets caught coming in, he might put up 1 point or 2 points or whatever it is. It can get a little sketchy down there. That's kind of why, in terms of cash games, I was leaning towards Wellington Turman, because I don't think Petrovski is going to shut him off. So, but I get it either way. I do. I just my lean is Turman.
Yeah, I think I would probably want them both. I'm not sure though. I forget because I had Azatar in there. I know that, so maybe it was those three together. But I feel like your cash game lineup's coming together for me because of your hot take that you were telling me before the podcast. So we'll get to that later. But it's making more sense now.
There's one of the guys that we got to get to that I think I'm higher on the most.
Yeah. On this one, though, I'm going to be Frankie or pass. I'm just going to fade Gutierrez. The only way Gutierrez, in my eyes, that he makes the optimal lineup is with a first-round knockout. That is possible, but it's also possible that he gets that first-round knockout and still gets outscored by these other people priced around him and by people priced below him. So I'm just going to take – that's going to be my risky play, is just a full fade on Gutierrez, and I don't think it's that risky, just hoping that Edgar's chin holds up, because if Gutierrez does not get a knockout, I just don't see how he has any chance scoring 10x really, or 100 for that matter. So Frankie Edgar's a guy that can not only, I would expect to 10x if he gets the win, but he has 100 plus upside in a decision win. We saw him score 69 DraftKings points in a loss to Marlon Vera in his last fight. If you give him a win, if you give him more time and the win, he's scoring over 100 points there. So I'm definitely cool with Edgar because his path to victory in this fight is that exact same game plan. Just go out there, rack up takedowns, land your ground and pound, and he can do that for 3 rounds, in my opinion. So go out there, get it done, and then right off into the sunset, Frankie.
Please don't come back.
Yeah.
It's good.
All right, next one on the card, we have my fight of the night, Dustin Poirier minus 215 against Michael Chandler, plus 195. Both of these guys are allergic to boring fights, so this will be fireworks from the bell. How do you see it going down, Sean?
This is the one. I like Michael Chandler here. I think this is going to be a wild fight, but it's one of those. I mean, clearly Chandler can get put down. They stand and trade in the pocket. I actually think Chandler's got more power. He just does. Poirier accumulates on guys. He even did it to Connor. That's what he accumulates on guys. He beats you up that way. They're going to stand and trade. I think Chandler's chance of landing the big punch is more. We've seen Dustin Poirier hurt a bunch. Like, look at the Eddie Alvarez fights. In both those fights, Eddie Alvarez had him hurt bad. And Eddie Alvarez typically isn't a put you out with one punch kind of guy. Like, I see them getting one of these exchanges, and Chandler and Poirier hits harder than most of the guy, or Chandler hits harder than most of the guys Poirier has faced. And I'm including, I mean, Connor's got the big left in there, but he clearly wasn't Connor in that fight. It's just a different Conor McGregor. So taking that one out, Chandler's a big hitter, and at this price, I think it should be priced closer. I also don't think because Poirier tends to wear on guys, I don't think, even though we saw the Gaethje Chandler fight, I don't think Chandler's going to go down quick. Now, anything can happen with 4-ounce gloves thrown in phone booths, but I think he's got a floor there. I actually could argue I think he's got more of a floor than Frankie Edgar, who could go get put out with the first punch. I wish this fight was 5 rounds, so I had even more of a floor to work with, and I want to see 5 rounds of this shit. Both these guys playable in GPP. I think the power of Chandler makes me. They're going to stand in a phone booth. That makes me edge my pick towards Michael Chandler. Both guys are perfectly live. I'm probably not going to go bet Michael Chandler unless the line moves towards Poirier on fight day. But in terms of odds value and DraftKings price value, give me Michael Chandler. And this is kind of where he's my other cash game punt option. My past cash game punt options that I'm kind of toying with were Turman, Edgar, Michael Chandler. Which one of those guys do I go? And if I pay down from Chandler to Edgar, can I get up to a spot I like even more off of this weird Renato Moicano spot I'm in right now? So that's what I'll be on the train going to MSG, flipping through those combinations, trying to figure out which one I like most. So that's where I'm at.
All right. At the end, I'll go over my underdogs that are in play for cash at the end, I guess. But that would make me very scared once again, using this fight in cash games, because I just expect this fight to take place in a phone booth, fireworks from the opening bell, and I just think one of them goes down. Either one of them could have some success with wrestling throughout the fight. Either one of them could land 200 plus strikes throughout the fight, but I just don't expect the judges to be needed from this one. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to favor Poirier. I just think he's the better overall striker, so I picked Poirier to be the 5th person to TKO Chandler, but it would not shock me at all to see Chandler go out there and land one big bomb in the first round and break the slate. Could even be in 60 seconds. He's just got massive power, and he could also rack up some takedowns and a decision win. Like, there's no way Chandler wins this fight and does not score 10x. I think he's an absolute lock for 10x if he's able to get the win, and he's more likely to score 100 points if he's able to win. So totally fine even going core play on Chandler, especially if he's your pick to win. I'm picking him to lose, but I still want to be overweight to the field if possible. I want this fight in like 85-90% of my total lineups, and I'm cool being split on them. But Dustin is the one I've been clicking on most with my hand-built lineup, so he'll be my preferred play. But GPP only for me. I would not want the floor of either one of these guys in my cash game lineup personally. GPP all the way. Load up, though. If you're on the Chandler side, definitely get leverage there. But I just think you should be throwing lineups into the pot here, hoping you can hit the right combination, because I expect the winner of this fight to be on the $200,000 lineup. But give me Poirier. All right, next one on the card, we have the first title fight of the night. Whoa, what happened with these? So we have Weili Zhang from 300 to minus 400 across the board. And then Carlos Esparza right around plus 300. It sounds like you're picking Zhang in this one. I really don't have much to argue, but how do you see this fight playing out?
I mean, Weili smash. Like, I don't think Carla's going to have success in the takedowns. So to me, her floor goes out the window because her striking is bad. Although it's come along, I have to say that it looked better than it had in that Claudia Gadelha fight. But against Weili, you start exchanging. You think Rose has power? Wait till Weili Zhang hits you in the face. I don't think she's going to have success with the takedowns. Me not liking Carla at all is why I'm playing with these other guys in cash. If you're disagreeing what you think Weili's going to decision her and 5 rounds to work with as far as your punt, fine. I get the logic. I'm just disagree with you. That's fine. I'm allowed to disagree. The Carla disrespect is real because Weili Zhang's going to pick her up, toss in her head, teabag her, and walk away with the title. Like, look, there's levels to it. And to me, sorry, Cookie Monster. I think Weili's going to smash here. There's a bet floating around that's unfortunately become a little bit mush on MMA Twitter, which is making me sad, but it's Weili via any finishes plus 100 right now. I'm like, well, shit, I like that bet a lot. So that kind of gets you where I am. I don't see Carla wrestling Weili, and if you can't do that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I don't really think Esparza is in play for cash for that reason that Weili is even money to end the fight early. So she doesn't have much of a floor, in my opinion. I think she could go out there, have some success with takedowns, but she has to lay on Weili Zhang for at least 3 rounds to win this fight because she's not going to have any success on the feet. And I just don't think that she's going to have that much success with the wrestling because Weili Zhang is a beast herself, and I think she can use it in defense to keep this fight standing. If that's the case, I think it's a matter of time before Esparza gets knocked out. So Zhang is she's definitely a top 3 play on the slate for me, if not my number 1 play on the slate. I think if you can, you try to lock her into cash games, and I would like to be overweight to the field on her as well. Esparza will be a full fade for me. I'm Xing her out of my lineups this week because I think she's already going to get too much ownership by the field. I had her projected to close to 20%, and I just think that's way too much. So I would rather fade that than come close to getting any leverage. I'll get my leverage elsewhere. This is Zhang or pass for me in all formats. So I agree. Go Weili Zhang, and I expect her to smash. Next one on the card, we have the second title fight. 2 of the best, if not the best strikers in the UFC, Israel Adesanya, minus 210 against Alex Pereira, plus 190. I've been on the Israel train since the start, but now we have somebody who can actually match his skill in the striking department, and Pereira is the one with the power edge in this fight. He's beat him before twice in kickboxing. He had a unanimous decision in 2016, and then he knocked him out cold in 2017. I think I don't know how to judge kickboxing fights. I thought both fights were really close, leading up to the knockout. I thought Izzy was having his moments. He even had a standing 8 count before he was knocked out where he probably would have finished if that was a UFC fight. So I think they're somewhat both in play just for the knockouts, but I expect this to be a very technical fight. And if it goes all 5 rounds, I don't know that either side even scores 70 points. So it's not my favorite main event. I heard that you say you don't care for it much either. How do you see it playing out? And it sounds like you're picking the challenger to win.
I'm not, unfortunately. I'm picking Adesanya to win. Adesanya, by the way, to me, I thought he won the first kickboxing match. I'm not a kickboxing judge, but I thought he won, and Pereira got the decision. Second fight, you mentioned, I thought Izzy was up 2-0 and then had standing eight count in the third. But Pereira, he's got the big left hand. That's what he has. Technical-wise, I think it's close. I think Izzy's, I think the range is there. It's power versus technique, and I'll take Izzy there slightly. And then what's really throwing me and make me want to pick Adesanya more is Pereira can be taken down. You would think Adesanya's 12-1 in the UFC. You would think training all this time with Eugene Bareman that Adesanya knows how to get a takedown. I know he doesn't do it, but I would think he knows how to. And Pereira, outside of the fight with Sean Strickland, which ended real quick, he was taken down multiple times by not Modestus Bukakis. Who's the Greek guy? Michailidis. Andreas Michailidis took him down, and Bruno Silva both took him down twice. Like, you can take him down. I assume Izzy should do that. I don't know if he will, but there's a path. He's got that extra path makes me pick Adesanya via decision. That is how I think it goes. Pereira, and unfortunately, because of that takedown upside, I actually think they're both pretty equal GPP plays. I'll probably be under the field of both because they're both going to get dumbass ownership. I think the most likely outcome is a boring decision win for Adesanya again that doesn't reach the optimal. And they're both going to be like 40% owned. So no thank you there. I'll go under. My pick is Adesanya. I am over the whole shtick and the freeze him like Elsa and all. Like, I take nothing he says seriously anymore. Nothing. He wins via boring decision. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter in these scenarios of listening to the fighters. You can't listen to what he says anymore. Like, Frivola says he's going to go stand in a phone booth. I've watched some other Frivola stuff, and he's usually pretty accurate with his game plans. Adesanya was spewing the same garbage at us before the Cannonier fight. And like I said at the start, people were leaving. Like, I was there. You cannot downplay. It was a lot of people just leaving. And I was only there because I was going to bed afterwards. I was like, I'll just finish this fight. Like, it was not fun, guys. So give me Adesanya via decision, under them both. In cash games, I think regardless of what clicking around I'm doing, I'm only playing Weili Zhang. I'm not playing any of the other three in cash games in terms of the 5-round title fights, which is weird. It's a product of there's other places to go, big favorites I like, some underdogs who are live, and we have 14 total fights. I don't feel a need to slam in the main event. So that's where I'm at.
You're not against it. I think I'm hoping that the field is just heavy on the main event as they always are. I like to project main events for about 80% or more ownership usually. I think I did project a little less on this fight, but even if it's like 70% or more, I think that's too much because if this fight is not ending in a knockout, I don't really see a big ceiling for either one of them. Pereira did score 87 DraftKings points in the decision win against Bruno Silva. And like that volume was great, but you can't do that against Adesanya. So I just would not expect to see that type of volume. This is going to be a much slower, more technical striking match as it moves along. And I would say Pereira is my preferred play because he's $1,000 cheaper. It's going to be a lot easier for him to 10x in a decision. He's got the power edge, as I've mentioned. So I would just rather use Pereira in my lineups. I think he's one of 4 playable underdogs. It would have been him, Azatar, underdog Azatar, Turman, and Edgar. Those would be the 4 I was messing around with in cash games. You're probably going to need 3 of them, in my opinion. That would be a safer route, in my opinion, because I wouldn't be shocked to see Izzy get a knockout in any round, but I don't expect it to be early. If he does get one, I think it would be later throughout the fight. But I have this one going all 25 minutes. And because of that, I'm going to be low on the fight as a whole. I want this fight in less than half of my total lineups. And if I had to put one of them in a single entry or cash game, it would be the Pereira side because there's just too many favorites on this card with huge ceilings that I would much rather target than Izzy. So I'm seeing maybe 15, 20% Adesanya for me, and then maybe 20, 25 Pereira. Somewhere along that is kind of where I'm seeing this one going down. But I do think that a 25-minute fight will favor Israel Adesanya because this is not only, the biggest fight of Pereira's career, but it's a 25-minute striking match against the champion. And I think Izzy is the faster striker with the better movement and should be the more likely minute winner. So I agree with him being the favorite. I just think that the line is probably a bit too wide. And if I had to bet it, I'd rather just take the shot on the underdog, to be honest with you. But hopefully this one is a 70-point score from the winner. We can avoid it and target other fights and hope that the field goes down with a low score here. Do you have anything else you want to add about this fight, Sean?
No, I'm good.
All right, well then let's end off with a kill shot at the end of each breakdown. We like to pick a kill shot, somebody we think will be looked by the field, but could be the key to that $200,000 lineup. Have somebody in mind, Sean?
Renato Moicano.
All right, yeah, I don't hate that at all, and makes sense by the way you broke it down. So I am cool with that. And the way you broke it down, if that happens, he could absolutely score 100 plus, not only with a submission, but he could go out there and score 100 in a decision as well. So I'm cool with it. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with 41-year-old Frankie Edgar. Go out there, win all 3 rounds with wrestling, put up 90 plus points in a decision. So go Frankie. I would really like to see him go out that way. It would suck to see him get knocked out by Chris Gutierrez and me have 0 Gutierrez in my lineups. But
yeah,
hopefully we're right here. And thank you for coming on the show this week, Sean. If you have anything you want to promote, man, the floor is yours.
Come check us out over in the soccer channels. I'll say I have my own. So guys who've been around DFS Army for a while, I don't do the breakdowns here anymore every week. I'm over at MMA Play 365, $5 a card over there, a little bit extra. But general. So I had people ask me this. So anybody still listening, you might be interested. Like I have no problem talking general strategy, DFS construction, all that type of stuff. I'm not going to give out my plays every week for this card, big card over, coming back on the Killshot podcast. More than happy to, but don't shy away from talking to me in Discord, guys. I'm in there like a lunatic every week. Check out MMA Play 365. Newsom's got some good betting content over there. I tail some of that shit too. But always, if you want, actually, I should say my betting picks. I have starting to post over. I know Marley, you still have yours, but I'm over the Sharp app, and Geeks got me over there posting an occasional MMA play there. I only really make one MMA bet a week, 1 or 2. My volume isn't crazy MMA betting because it's just not how I roll. So check out me in all those places, and I'll be pretty drunk on Saturday and at MSG looking to kill time. So I'll probably be in Discord harassing you guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, have fun at that card. I am jealous. Go check them out. Sharp app, go sign up for that. Also sign up for DFS Army. If you haven't already, promo code Sleeveless will save you 10%. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Good luck to you this weekend, Sean. Good luck to everybody listening. Go win something. See you guys next time.